Okay, so get ready because today we're diving into a case that'll really make you think about what might be hiding beneath the surface, especially now with everybody creating these online personas.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're looking into the murder of Ernie Abara, happened back in 2015 in Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Right.
Now, on the surface, it seemed like a pretty straightforward kidnapping that went wrong, but then the victim's wife, Samantha, she starts acting. Well, let's just say suspicious.
Suspicious is a good word for it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how this case plays out because, like you were saying, it really shows
Yeah.
how dangerous it can be to believe everything you see online.
Right.
Samantha, she was building quite a following over on YouTube, presenting this image of a happy wife and mother.
Mm-hmm.
But was it all just a facade?
A carefully constructed one, perhaps.
Exactly.
And to really understand just how deep this deception might go, we need to start with Ernie. What kind of a guy was he?
Ernie was like the definition of a hard worker. I mean, the guy was working 2 jobs just to support Samantha and their 5 kids.
5 kids.
Yeah, 2 sets of twins.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. Which makes everything that happened on February 20th, 2015 even more shocking.
Right.
So picture this. It's the middle of the night. Their house is pretty isolated outside of town. And Ernie and Samantha are asleep when suddenly masked intruders bust in.
Okay, so we got a home invasion in the middle of the night. Pretty terrifying.
Absolutely.
What happened next?
Well, according to Samantha, the intruders beat Ernie pretty badly, demanding money.
Oh, wow.
They even brought up his dad's criminal past, which is interesting. But thankfully, the kids weren't hurt.
Yeah.
But the attackers took off with Ernie, leaving Samantha there, tied up and gagged.
That's awful. But like you said, Samantha's story started to fall apart.
Yeah.
What didn't add up?
Well, first off, the forced entry looked staged.
Mm.
The deputies at the scene just weren't buying it.
Right.
It didn't look like a real break-in.
Right.
And then there's the whole thing with Samantha's cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
She said she called her mom while she was still tied up, which honestly, how is that even possible?
Yeah, that does seem a little far-fetched.
Right.
Were there other things that made investigators suspicious?
Her behavior was really off.
Yeah.
I mean, she seemed way more interested in the deputies themselves than her missing husband.
Really?
Or her 5 kids.
Wow.
The podcast actually plays snippets of their interactions.
Yeah.
And it's chilling. Her nonchalance is just, it's really unsettling.
Yeah.
She's asking them about their guns, making these strange comments.
What kind of comments?
Oh, just weird stuff.
Okay.
And she even takes naps in the interrogation room.
Wait, hold on. Naps?
Yeah, seriously.
That's so bizarre.
It's super strange.
Wow.
So naturally, the investigators start looking into Ernie's past to see if maybe something there could explain what happened.
Right.
But they also started looking into Samantha's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's when things get really interesting.
Okay, let's talk about this YouTube persona.
Sure.
What was she putting out there for the world to see?
Well, on the surface, it was all pretty innocent.
Okay.
Makeup tutorials, talking about being a mom, trying to come across as relatable.
Right.
But then they found these personal videos where she's complaining about Ernie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even suggesting he was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different from the image she's projecting on her main channel.
So she's creating this carefully curated persona for her followers while simultaneously complaining about her husband in these private videos.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if she was trying to build a public narrative to gain sympathy, maybe even prepping for some sort of defense if something were to happen.
Right.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It really is.
Like someone using their online presence to manipulate people's perceptions and maybe even to cover up a crime.
Yeah. You really have to wonder.
It raises all these questions about how much we can actually know about somebody just from what we see online.
Absolutely.
But going back to the investigation, did the police find any evidence that backed up Samantha's claims about Ernie?
Nope, not at all.
Nothing.
Quite the opposite, actually.
Right.
They found nothing to support those suggestions that Ernie was involved with drugs or anything illegal. And then there's this key moment in one of her interviews where she kind of cracks.
Yeah.
She starts talking about this guy named Johnny Reb.
Johnny Reb.
Yeah, that she met at the hospital. And she claims he might be involved.
Okay, that's a pretty unique nickname.
Right.
Did it lead anywhere?
It did. Turns out Johnny Reb was Jonathan Sanford.
Okay.
And Samantha mentioning him sent the investigation in a whole new direction.
So Samantha points the finger at this Johnny Reb character. What happens next?
Well, they tracked down Jonathan Sanford along with his 2 accomplices, José Pon and Octavius Ryme.
Okay.
And that's when the real story about Ernie's kidnapping and murder starts to come out.
Ooh, this is where it gets even more intense, right?
Yeah.
What did these guys have to say?
So Sanford, in his confession, admitted that they planned to attack Ernie.
Okay.
But what started as a robbery quickly turned into something much more brutal.
Wow.
It's tough to hear his testimony, describing how Ernie was begging for his life, pleading with them not to hurt his children.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is, and Sanford even admitted to hitting Ernie in the head with a pistol to subdue him.
Oh my.
And sadly, it didn't end there.
You're saying they did more than just beat him?
Yeah.
What happened?
Sanford led investigators to Ernie's body,
Oh no.
dumped in a remote area in the woods.
Wow.
He'd been shot in the back of the head.
So while Sanford confessed to the attack, the big question remained, what role did Samantha actually play in all of this?
Right.
Sounds like things are about to get even more complicated.
Oh, yeah. That's the question everyone was asking. And you know, it's interesting.
What's that?
Samantha's online persona, that perfect image she built,
Right.
well, it really starts to crumble when you look at what she left behind digitally.
Ah, so the digital trail catches up with her.
Exactly. You can't hide from those texts and location data.
Nope.
Remember, Samantha insisted she was a victim, right?
Yeah.
But her phone records told a completely different story.
What did they find?
Messages between her and Sanford,
Hmm.
showing she was actively involved in planning the whole thing, even talking about covering it up afterward.
Wow, so she was in on it from the beginning.
Looks like it.
But what about her motive? What would make someone plan their own husband's murder?
That's the question that still puzzles everyone involved.
Yeah.
Some think she was just unhappy in the marriage and wanted out.
Mm-hmm.
Others suggest she saw Ernie as a roadblock to her YouTube dreams.
Really?
Yeah, maybe Edith thought she could use the tragedy to gain more followers.
It's like she was leading a double life.
Totally.
The perfect online persona and then this dark reality.
It's a good reminder that we can't always believe what we see on the internet, you know?
Absolutely. Have you ever met someone online who turned out to be totally different in person?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This case is so relevant, even today.
It really is.
It shows how important critical thinking is, especially online.
Absolutely.
We have to question things, look for those inconsistencies, and remember that there's always more than one side to the story.
Couldn't agree more.
So true.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the case. With all this evidence against Samantha, what happened at her trial?
Her trial started in September 2017,
Right.
more than 2 years after Ernie's murder.
Wow.
The prosecution had a really strong case.
Yeah.
They had those incriminating texts, the confessions from Sanford and Pon, even witnesses who refuted Samantha's claims of abuse.
So they were really building a case against her.
Oh, yeah.
What about her defense? Did she deny everything?
Well, she actually testified.
She did?
Yeah, in her own defense.
Wow, what was her strategy?
Memory loss.
Memory loss.
Yeah, she claimed she was on medication that messed with her memory.
Huh.
And that she couldn't remember sending those texts.
Seriously? She blamed it on medication?
That's what she said.
Seems like a pretty weak defense.
It does, and the prosecution was ready for it.
What did they do?
They pointed out problems with her timeline, showed that the text timestamps matched up perfectly with body cam footage of her using her phone.
So they proved she was lying about the memory loss.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And it gets worse.
Wow.
They had a witness, another inmate,
Okay.
who said Samantha confessed to her about those texts, said she was worried they'd be her downfall.
Oh, a classic jailhouse confession.
Exactly.
So not only was her memory fine,
Right.
but she knew those messages were bad news.
Yep. And to make things even worse,
Yeah.
the prosecution also called witnesses who contradicted her claims about Ernie being abusive.
So they were saying he wasn't abusive.
Yeah, they described him as a loving dad who was working hard for his family.
So her attempts to make Ernie look bad totally backfired.
Completely.
And remember those men she supposedly asked for a gun, complaining about Ernie?
What do they say?
Their testimonies painted a different picture altogether.
Suggested she might have been planning to hurt him long before Sanford and his crew even came into the picture.
So this wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Sounds like she might have been thinking about this for a while.
Wow, this is getting more and more disturbing.
It is. And remember how Samantha tried to say Ernie might have been involved in drugs? That maybe he brought this violence on himself?
Right.
The investigators found absolutely no evidence of that.
So it was all lies.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just layer upon layer of manipulation and deceit.
It's hard to believe someone could be so calculating.
It's chilling, especially considering how she used her online platform to push her narrative.
It's like she was trying to control the story even before the crime happened.
Exactly. And during the trial, people who were there said she put on quite a show.
Really? What kind of show?
Fake tears, dramatic pleas, the whole works.
Trying to play the victim card.
Exactly. So did it work?
Yeah. Did the jury buy it?
Not at all. They heard all the evidence, all the testimonies, and came back with a guilty verdict.
Wow. Guilty of murder.
Guilty of murder. What kind of sentence do you think she got?
I don't know. With all that evidence, it has to be a long one, right?
Samantha was sentenced to 99 years in prison for Ernie's murder.
99 years.
And get this, the judge decided to add that on top of a 50-year sentence she got for the kidnapping charge.
Wow. So basically a life sentence?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But while Samantha's facing the consequences,
Right.
the real tragedy is Ernie's family.
Of course, especially his 5 kids.
Exactly. They lost both parents.
It's heartbreaking to think about what they're going through.
It is. And to make matters worse, Ernie's mother was devastated.
Yeah.
Not just by losing her son, but also because Samantha's mother got custody of the children.
Oh, wow.
And according to the podcast, she's prevented Ernie's family from having any contact with them.
That's awful, adding insult to injury.
It is a cruel twist on top of everything else. This whole case is just, wow, it's a lot to take in.
It really is.
It really shows how far-reaching the effects of a crime like this can be.
Absolutely. So while justice was served legally, the emotional pain is still there.
Definitely.
And it makes you think about our digital lives.
Yeah.
The personas we create online. And how important it is to be critical thinkers in a world where it's so easy to hide the truth.
So important.
It really makes you think, like, what was going through her head during the trial?
I know, right.
Does she actually think she could get away with it?
It's tough to say, but her actions, I mean, they really point to some serious self-deception.
Yeah.
Maybe she thought her online persona, the fake tears, all that.
Right.
Maybe she thought it would be enough to convince the jury.
Yeah.
Or maybe, like, she bragged to Sanford and Rhymes. She really believed she was that good of an actress.
Like she was so used to manipulating people online
Right.
that she thought she could manipulate the legal system too.
It's a classic case of hubris,
Yeah.
Building this whole facade online, controlling the story, getting all that sympathy and attention.
And then trying to do the same thing in real life.
Yeah. But she underestimated the power of hard evidence.
And the jury wasn't buying it.
Not at all.
But in the end, the truth won out.
It did.
And it's a reminder that justice, even though it can't fix everything,
Right.
it can at least hold people accountable.
Absolutely. In this case, it's so tragic.
It is.
But it's also a huge warning about these online personas.
Oh, so true.
Reminding us that we can't just take everything at face value.
It's tough, though,
Oh, no.
We're constantly bombarded with all this curated content online.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to know it's real anymore?
It's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
The Ernie Abara case, I think it shows us just how important critical thinking is, especially in this digital world.
We can't just passively consume information anymore.
No way. We got to be active, question things.
Question motives, look at different perspectives.
Exactly. And always ask why.
Why is this person sharing this? What's their angle? What are they hoping to get out of it?
Right. It's about being a smart consumer of information.
Don't just accept what you see on the surface.
Dig deeper.
Look for those inconsistencies.
Cross-reference. Do your research.
It's like being a detective in your own digital life.
Exactly. And those detective skills, they're only becoming more important.
That's for sure. This deep dive has really been eye-opening.
I know. It makes you rethink how you approach things online.
It does for me.
It's a case that sticks with you,
It does.
Not just because it's so shocking,
right.
but because it raises all these questions about trust and deception.
Yeah.
And how much power the digital world has over us.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
Next time you're scrolling through social media or watching a YouTube video, whatever.
Right.
Take a second.
Yeah.
Pause.
Pause.
And ask yourself,
Okay.
how much do I really know about this person? What could they be hiding?
Because as we've seen with the Ernie Abara case,
Yeah.
sometimes the truth can be a lot scarier than the illusion.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.